There's so much good music going on around here.
Let's hear from our studio audience now.
Yes. You're going to want to see that.
That is some groovy intro music.
Add it to the list.
Add it to the list. It's a running tab. Leave us a voicemail at 970-579-0843.
Welcome to Sound On Podcast. Here at Sound On, we bring you all of the Boulder County music news, who's playing where and when. We also bring you exclusive artist interviews, jam sessions, and album releases, and more. If you're an artist or venue and would like to have your show featured, email us info@soundonpodcast.com. Hello, Tim.
Dave, how's things living today?
Oh, man, it's just a beautiful spring day here in Longmont already.
So nice.
I mean, it's only 9:30, and it's just gorgeous outside.
It's amazing.
And yeah.
I'm going to get my garden planted right outside of our studio later today.
We're cleaning out the back porch here at Sound On Studios for the sitting time.
Things are just happening around here.
Right. Sean Bennight's here this week. He's a multi-instrumentalist and songwriter here in Longmont. He plays with Mad Dog Blues, and he's here today to share some of his own music and to talk about the Colorado Blues Society Blues Challenge and the finals he'll be playing at on May 5th, and that's at the Dickens Opera House.
Ooh, yeah, it'll be good to hear from Sean. He's been writing such great music for so long.
I know, he's one of the great musicians around the scene, and we're just so excited to have him here.
Yeah, shall we get to the music news?
Let's do it.
Today, Wednesday, April 10th at East Moon Sushi, we've got Clandestine Amigo Duo at 6 p.m. Valerie Baht will be at Rosalee's Pizzeria at 7 p.m. I'll be hosting the drop in Acoustic Jam at 300 Suns Brewing at 6 p.m. Open mic night is going to be going down at Longtucky Spirits at 6 p.m. And over at Shoes and Brews is the Summer Series Open Mic at 6 p.m.
On Thursday the 11th at Cellars, the Songwriter Hour featuring Meredith Wilder and Daniel Boling at 7:30 p.m. And that is, of course, hosted by our friend Kyle Donovan. At the Longmont Public House, it's the 3-chair jam with Andy Eppler at 6 p.m. Over at St. Vrain Cidery, Michelle Roderick's playing at 6 p.m. And it's Honky Tonk Happy Hour with Adam Lopez at Oskar Blues at 6 p.m.
On to Friday, April 12th at La Vita Bella Cafe. We've got the Soundpost Sessions with Duo Azure at 8 p.m. Mr. Andy Eppler will be at 300 Suns Brewing at 6 p.m. Night of Hendrix and Voodoo Sunshine will be at Grossenbart Brewing at 7 p.m. Over at Bootstrap. They should consider that name.
They should.
You got the Strange Parade at 6 p.m. At Collusion Brewing, we've got Cutie Fish at 7 p.m. James Hurtado will be at the Roost at 8:30. Oh, like wow will be at Longtucky Spirits at 7 p.m. Woodshed Red will be at the Dickens Opera House at 7 p.m. And Lindsay Saunders will be at Tasty Weasel at 5 p.m.
Ooh, that's a good Friday's worth of music.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take it into Saturday the 13th over at Cellars, Oliver Jacobson and Roma Ransom at 6:30 p.m. At the Speakeasy, Stomp It at 8 p.m. Kevin Dooley's playing at Longtucky Spirits at 7 p.m. At the Tasty Weasel, Von Hodad's at 4 p.m. And at Gross and Bart, Jen Cleary Duo with Mad Dog Freeman at 7 p.m.
And Sunday, April 14th, we've got Fox Feather Duo at the Tasty Weasel at 3 p.m. At St. Vrain Cidery, McPherson's will be playing at 4 p.m. And the Random Neighbors will be at La Vita Bella Cafe.
Ooh, and that does it for the music calendar for the week.
In a past life, we were king and queen. We've seen our castle in my dreams, but at this point, I can't recall. And I know this magic, yes, I know it's real. This kind of thing even time can't conceal. It echoes through every canyon, down every hall. Across deserts, plains, and vast mountain ranges, rhythm like sonar resounds in my veins. It guides me to places familiar, that I've never known. And with every footstep I feel I draw near. I wake in the moment, know why I'm here, and I dream the path to find my way home. Dream the path to find my way home. And I've met you before, well, it must have been autumn. The storms brought down the last to have fallen. There were leaves like butterflies pinned down by the rain, 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 pinned down by the rain. This time I found you, again it was fall. Moon on the water, the night gently calling, distractions around, but your presence was clear. More interaction, these ripples in time, expanding and quenching the thirst in my mind to locate what my heart tells me is here. And I kneel before you in reverence, my queen. My heart is yours, there's no space in between the stars and the sky, for I am your knight. And I lay down my sword and hand you my soul, my shield and my armor. Please take them, they're yours. I need them no more. I've given up this fight. And I need them no more. I've given up this fight. And I've met you before, well, it must have been autumn. The storms brought down the last to have fallen. There were leaves like butterflies pinned down by the rain, 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 pinned down by the rain. With every footstep, I feel I draw near. I wake in the moment, I know why I'm here, and I dream the path to find my way home. More interaction, these ripples in time, expanding and quenching the thirst in my mind. Dream the path to find my way home. Dream the path to find my way home. And I've met you before, well, it must have been autumn. The storms brought down the last to have fallen. There were leaves like butterflies pinned down by the rain, 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 pinned down. And I've met you before, well, it must have been autumn. The storms brought down the last to have fallen. There were leaves like butterflies pinned down by the rain, 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 pinned down by the rain. With every footstep I feel I draw near. I wake in the moment, I know why I'm here, and I dream the path to find my way home.
Woo! Sean Bennight is here. He has arrived.
Hello.
We are awake now. It is morning. We are here.
April 10th at Vision Quest Brewery in Boulder with Mad Dog Blues. April 12th, the Little Bear in Evergreen, Mad Dog Blues at 5 p.m. April 19th at the Broken Plow in Greeley with Mad Dog Blues. April 26th, Georgia Boys in Longmont, solo at 7 p.m. The Astral Project with Mad Dog is playing Sonic Bloom on the Starwater stage, which is June 20th through the 23rd. And upcoming shows with Riley Ann to look for starting mid-May. How you doing, sir?
I'm waking up.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to get right into it, man, but I just want to throw the disclaimer out that this one could go a little off the rails.
It certainly could.
We're professionals at sitting around and BSing with each other
We
off
are.
of the microphone.
I was thinking about that on the way here, and I was like, I don't have to prepare for anything.
That's kind of the way I
we've
handle
had the
this.
If
same
anything, I
thing.
should not prepare.
Right.
Who knows where this is going?
You're a busy man.
I am pretty busy lately.
You're out
Yeah.
playing music. You're working with Earth Love Gardens.
Yep.
What else is going
All
on, man?
these things. Those two things are pretty dominant at the moment of my time, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad at all.
No, it's a good thing.
You're out playing with Mad Dog Friedman.
Mad Dog is amazing. What a gift to be able to share the stage with somebody like that. And I don't know, I've talked about this with a couple other people, and I mentioned it to him before we did our performance at the Colorado Blues Society semifinals. And it seems to be with painters and blues and jazz musicians specifically that we very often don't realize their greatness until they're gone. Or we do, but we don't really seem to talk about it.
We don't
then
care.
Then they're gone, and you're just like, "Oh, that guy's amazing! That girl's amazing! I saw these shows, I did these things." And you're like, "Cool! Why weren't you really blowing up about it when they were doing that?"
Right.
You know? And so I looked at him and I was like, I recognize you. Like, it is an honor, because he's just this walking book of history and authenticity and new creation in old styles and techniques that, I'll ask him for a reminder during a set and be like, it's 12 bars, shuffle and A. And he's like, yeah, it's like such and such by blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, one day I will know all of these things, but for now I'm just like, cool. I think I know what you mean by that.
How did that collaboration start with Mad Dog?
Just the way things connect out here in the open mics and circles that we all run in. I got introduced to him and saw him play, and it was one day at an open mic or an open jam. I think actually it was Earl Corey's World Music Night that was going on at Beyond the Mountain for a while last year. I came up to him after that and was like, man, I will play blues with you anytime. Because we had done this kind of cool blues jam thing in that one. And he was like, really? I was like, yes. I was like, yes, please. It was really cool. We both have some roots in the St. Louis area, him from the other side of the river in Alton, Illinois. But those are similar playground. And St. Louis is a river city blues confluence of rivers and blues and fusion and city and industry and all these things. Yeah, it's a confluence for sure. Which is a cool word, a $10 word for those of you that they're listening. It's a good word. But yeah, we definitely connect in a number of ways. I think that has something to do with it, is having our roots very deeply in the blues traditions, which is it's really fun style and approach to music. It's a unique challenge.
So yeah, let's take it back to Missouri. When did you get started playing guitar and the blues?
I started playing guitar when I was 13. I played trumpet for several years prior. And then one day I went to school and I left my trumpet on the front porch of the house instead of taking it to school with me, not on purpose. That was not my intention. And, we lived in the city. confluence of things in the city. Yeah. So my trumpet was not there when I came back home.
Oh.
Like, somebody had found a trumpet that day.
Somebody had pawned a trumpet that day.
Something like that had taken place. Yeah. But so I was kind of done with that at that time anyway. Looking back now, I kind of wish I'd stuck with it because I still know how that instrument works, but it'd take me like months to get an embouchure built back up, and that would be very frustrating because I would know what I want to play with it now and not be able to, which is very much the reverse of how it was then, where you're just like, I have no idea what I really want to do with this thing. this horn is making noise, and I'm reading the notes, and I guess I'm doing it right. Guitar just kind of made sense. I didn't have a trumpet. There was a guitar in the basement.
Much less painful to listen to when you're practicing and not good at.
I was very encouraged to stick with the music by my parents, and I think it was my mom that was like, why don't you restring the guitar that's in the basement and play that?
That's awesome.
Like, okay. And so we did, and yeah, I still was very probably horrible to listen to for, who knows how long. Just like beating away on the guitar in the basement on this chord sheet, learning chords, not really even playing songs, just like D, 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 D. This is an E, 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 E. And yeah, eventually it fell in, or I'd say rather quickly. And probably the real answer to your second question is that immediately you start playing the blues.
That's kind of why I paired the two questions together.
I don't think anybody really has a choice but to dip into that field pretty quickly. Like pretty much anything that you're listening to on the radio that is popular in any way has some type of color from the blues.
Right.
If not just totally built from it and you didn't know it. Like,
sure.
And there's a lot of blues coming up from that area. Were you inspired much by music happening
That's
around
true.
you then?
That's true. Although really my first serious performance vetting ground was church growing up. So like singing and performing, and eventually it became, we were writing our own music and performing the stuff in church, and that was cool. So that really wasn't until I moved to Kentucky in 2001 that I started playing out live in front of other people in bars and in country clubs and whatever.
So was that a conscious decision when you moved to Kentucky? You're like, okay, I'm going to start doing this, or?
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of found me, I guess. And I'd been playing for long enough at that point to jam and like want to sit around the campfire. I knew some songs, and you wanted to perform because you get good attention when you do that. So especially at that point earlier on, you're like, you want to be the dude that's showing up that can really rock and roll, and that's cool. Everybody's going to enjoy it, and it gives you an excuse to be an introvert in an extroverted world as well, because then you have this thing that's this barrier, and you can be like, this is what I'm here doing. I actually have to talk to you until I figure out what I really want to say to you. And
right.
That's
it's kind of a social anxiety strategy in some ways.
Yeah.
I think a lot of musicians
honesty.
can relate to that on some level. I definitely can.
Yeah, like it doesn't bother me to perform in front of people or to do public speaking. Like I'm supposed to be up there doing that,
right.
So and take command of that and do it as best I can. But any other scenario similar to that, where I just suddenly have the room's attention and it wasn't something I really was seeking, like that is not the most comfortable experience. And
Agreed.
I'd really rather just kind of be in the background.
Yeah.
It's so much cooler.
Well, and it's easy to dart for the back door after the set's over.
Exactly. It's like I'm on stage, I have an escape route.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's some safety set up there where like you can be in that exposed setting, but not have to be quite so vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's cool.
So did you start writing stuff right away? Did you start playing with people once you got to Kentucky? How did that work?
I did start writing stuff right away. Like immediately upon learning it, you figure something out, and the moment you can be like, I wrote a song. And actually there is one song that I wrote when I was 17 that has evolved a little, but I still play off and on to this day. Like, but that's the one from that era that really has made it through. The rest of them,
They're hidden in a shoebox
or found
somewhere.
the music, you'd look at it and be like, these 3 lines are good. And this chord progression is crap. So let's just start with these 3 lines and make a new song.
What do you think it is about that one that keeps you still playing it?
That was the first song that ever wrote through me, I guess would be the real answer there. Anything else from around then, I was really like, I was trying to tell my girlfriend how brokenhearted I was, or I was like trying to be this songwriter that can have these romantic poeticisms and these incredible imagery points that I was listening to, but not really understanding how that process worked to get those things. So those earlier attempts, you're just like, it's just crap. Like, really, it's not. It's awesome. It's what's necessary for anybody in those early stages. I'm not saying your work is crap. It's beautiful and perfect, but refinement is part of that process. And being able to look at this phrase and be like, that's trite, and it's not really saying what I want, is something you don't start off doing, generally speaking. You're just like, this is so beautiful, and it's all my heart. And you're like, great, put it on the page, and now cut it into small pieces and do it again and again and again. And you probably have a song, but I don't think you start wanting to edit quite so viscerally.
Well, I think a lot of it, and I'm not exactly a songwriter myself, but just from objectively looking at it, like a lot of it comes from those life experiences and the maturity that comes out of that. So really at that age, you're incapable of writing something that is that profound.
You could write it, but it's not really going to be authentic.
Right, exactly.
And so I think this song, because of the way that it happened and the things that are said in it, it really became more of a self-fulfilling prophecy for me to live into over the years. And yeah, that one just kind of happened. I had been playing with this chord progression from learning other songs, actually. And that was really cool. And I thought it sounded neat, but I didn't know what to do with it. And then I was actually on the beach in North Carolina on family vacation one summer. My mom was like walking down the beach, and I was playing guitar on the porch. It was downtime, like mid-afternoon. Everybody's chilling out and sunbaked or taking naps from lunch.
Regular baked.
And I'm, well, this was a different time and a different place, long before these things were beginning to be legal in any of the 50 states. But I do not believe it is not illegal in North Carolina. that will be a lasting holdout, I'm sure. It's a beautiful state. North Carolina is gorgeous. The coastline's great. But that's where this song was written, drifting. And it just kind of happened. So did that first one. That would qualify as well. It's just like, sometimes you have an idea, then you hammer it out. Or you want to write a song in a specific style. And so you put it in this box and you see what you can do with it. And then other times you sit down and just like have this kind of like tickle of some creative thing, and suddenly there's this song. And it really does a lot more of telling you what it needs to be than you do the other way around, I think. Like, that's all of them are a listening process, but some of them you're just like, you need to listen right so it can unfold. It's already there.
Sure.
It doesn't really need your help that much, except to kind of like, oh, you're a little crinkled here. There we go. Now you're good.
So, what did you see it as, like, as great as you think it is now, then? Like, were you as excited about it then, thinking that it was going to be a song that's going to live on, sort of thing?
I felt good about it when I wrote it. It had a different hook than it does now. And so it's been, the content in the verses are still pretty much the same, though. And I guess it wasn't really until in Kentucky, sometime in 2001 or 2002 in Paducah, at an open mic, I played the song and it stopped the room. And like, loud bar, open mic, nobody's really there to listen intently to everybody. But suddenly I realized, like halfway through the song, that I was just like, everybody's looking at me and listening. And that on stage is fine now, but was not fine then. And I was just like, oh my God, what have I done?
What superpower have I stumbled upon?
I think it didn't happen again for maybe a few more years. I think, but I remember that moment of being like, whoa. And yeah, so there's something about that song that is kind of neat and mystical for me, and that I didn't really write it with the intention. I mean, you write every song because it's going to be a Grammy award-winning hit. It's going to be on a record on the wall and move somebody in a ton of different magical ways. Like, of course it is. It's a beautiful and perfect song. But no, I didn't really write it thinking that, 20 plus years later, I would still be so interested and moved by this song. It's very unique quality that they sneak up on you with. And since then there have been many more that have just been explosive processes like that, where it's like a dawning and a reckoning all at the same time, or have found their way into becoming self-fulfilling prophecies, or things that mean very heavier and profound things sometimes later on. You're like, wow, I wrote this, and now here I am. And I'm like, oh, I wrote a song about this. As I had a schedule. Whoops. I guess that means I'm prepared for this emotional wreckage.
Right.
Is that
that's
that
right?
Works? Yeah. Maybe that's what it is all about. I don't know. But
You interested in playing that one for us?
sure. That seems appropriate since we've talked so much about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this one's called Drifting. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that. She says, "Hon, I think I'm dying. I didn't know where to go." And I asked her what I should say, what I'm supposed to know. And she said, "Why don't you have the words?" And well, I just sighed because maybe I could tell you if I just knew what it was. When I often lie here wondering and contemplating things, I just start drifting and I don't know where it leads. I've been drifting for a long time, and I'm in Colorado and struggling to define why it's so hard to believe in me. And I've been drifting along with life. Life's been drifting by me. Another night of fighting. Get up and go outside. Walk over to the car. Get in and take a ride. Return to find your wife sitting in a chair. No, you've heard her by her glassy-eyed stare. And she says, "I know you're a dreamer, but I can't stand this pain. And I can't stand to wipe another tear away again. I've been drifting for a long time, and I'm in Colorado and struggling to define why it's so hard to believe in me. And I've been drifting along with life. Life's been drifting by me." over next to me, where she once laid. I miss her smiling back at me, and why she hadn't stayed. Get up and stumble around, and I make my way outside. Watch the sunrise on the ridge and play guitar. I've been drifting for a long time, and I'm in Colorado and struggling to define why it's so hard to believe in me. And I've been drifting along with life. Life's been drifting by me.
That's a great song.
Thanks.
Okay, so the whole room's staring at you. Everyone's silent. What happens when you get off stage?
Well, my girlfriend at the time and mother of 2 amazing children is sitting at a table. I think a friend of ours was there. I don't think it was just the 2 of us, but we didn't live in Paducah. This was like a 45-minute drive into the city from where we lived in Kentucky at the time. And you know, I was aware, but it was really cool. Like, she just looked at me and she's like, "You stopped the room." And I was like, "Wow, let's see if we can do that again." And yeah, I don't know that I stopped the room again for some time, but
Did it invoke something in you? Did it change the way that you kind of approach things?
I think every time you have a moment like that where you know you tapped in and you delivered something, even before you're aware necessarily of what that process is or how it works, everybody comes to a point, I think, of defining that differently for themselves in performance. But eventually everybody comes to this understanding of like, this the thing that I'm doing that's letting me transmit this light on stage that's shining at people in this way. And not everybody possesses the ability to channel that way, and that's okay. But the people that do are fairly obvious early on, I think. We have a good example of that here in Longmont, especially, of like a number of younger performers that you're just like, it doesn't matter if you're any good at that instrument right now, just keep practicing, because you have this thing that you can't teach people. Like, you can teach people what to do with it, show them some tricks, but you cannot teach people how to do this thing or how to have this thing. You either do or you don't. It seems to me, anyway. I've been wrong before. But yeah, that every time you have those experiences, it reminds you that you have that. Because the other end of artistry is constantly doubting that that's really the truth for you.
Right.
So you need these reminders. You need, if you're going to perform, you need to get a standing ovation now and then. You need to own that when it happens and be like, "Thank you." I think take that in and don't feel bad about it. Be like, right on. Yeah, I'm capable of this. Should I expect this at every show? No.
I think that's true with all art and artists, you know, and not just music specifically, but because there's no real way to necessarily quantify until you get really big,
right?
You know exactly how good you are at something.
And even then, those measurements aren't necessarily the truth, because it's those immeasurable things in the beginning that put you in that field that you got to perform that way in. So
yeah. And it seems like it's different for everybody.
I think
like
so.
Sometimes like a reaction is considered success, and that can also be a negative reaction. Or
But for other person, it might be putting an album out or finishing a painting or something like that. So
what's it for you?
You know, that connection is really profound. I don't know that I would say that's it. In terms of performance, yes. It doesn't matter how many people are in the audience or how many of them you've engaged. When you have a couple people that are really listening and you get to play for them, like that level of engagement is what you're looking for, because it pushes you to new heights and makes you really focus and not phone it in. If you're just in a loud bar room and you can't really get anybody's attention, it's a difficult show.
Yeah.
Because you're playing for yourself with a whole bunch of resistance. And they're going to tip you and they're going to say that was awesome. And so you can't not perform, but you're not getting that engagement, and that the conversation on stage is what makes people want to listen, but it's the people that are engaging in that way that makes the conversation exciting and like even cooler. So as far as performance goes, like, yeah, just when you've connected and you're like, I am reeling you in. Or when someone comes up afterwards, this is the other end of it is on the shows where you don't feel like you've connected, where you feel like you're phoning it in. Those are generally the ones where you're going to get some of the most profound compliments. It seems, for me anyway. Like, those are the ones where someone's going to come up in the audience that you didn't even notice was there and be like, I loved that song about blah, blah, blah. And you're like, wow, I wrote about blah, blah, blah because blah, blah, blah was the subject of interest for me,
Right.
And it was after watching Arrested Development and blah, blah, blah that I thought this could be a funny thing. No, I'm just siding with her nonsense there. But yeah, this song really moved somebody, and you didn't even think that anybody was paying attention. But somebody out there was. And so it's important to remember that the real definition of success, I think, for art is something you will probably never witness. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Van Gogh is never going to see someone moved to tears by one of his paintings in a gallery unless he's watching this from some interdimensional standpoint.
Right.
It's entirely possible.
We could get into that.
Exactly. But you're not going to end up standing next to Van Gogh that you know of, and he's going to be like, you like this painting? You're like, yeah. You're like, yeah, that girl playing the piano was really special to me.
Right.
Right. That's not going to happen. Yeah. And likewise, the moment that your music really moved somebody and actually connected with them on a deeper and meaningful level is probably something that isn't going to happen right in front of you. It's probably something that's going to happen later. An echo of it, the album that they took with them, or the conversation that they had that later turned out to be formative, and now they have this connection. Like, you don't know.
So what happens the rest of the time that you're in Kentucky?
Kentucky was a proving ground. I had worked for this hammer on the table that we brought is the reference for that story. I dropped out of college, and it didn't take my parents long to realize that me living in their basement was not a winning scenario for anybody. And so I was offered the opportunity to find a new place to live. One of those options was I could go to Kansas City and live and work for my uncle, who is an amazing carpenter, and definitely the reason that I know any of those things the way that I do. It's his voice in my head that I'm tempering and translating for anybody else that's working with me. Very wonderfully. So yeah, I did that. I was in Kansas City. I worked for him for a little while, and that's after working for him and realizing that I wasn't ready to work for him just like that just yet. I went to Kentucky and had fallen in love, and that's what brought me there. And so Kentucky ended up, being really the proving ground of me deciding I wanted to perform. I went down there having been introduced to country and bluegrass by Jimbo, my uncle. His music collection is amazing. It's something that took me some time to appreciate, but it's amazing. And so I went to Kentucky with this songbook of things that were of great interest for me growing up in the city of St. Louis, which really were of zero interest to most of the people that lived in Western Kentucky, as I didn't know anything by Merle Haggard or George Jones. And my Townes Van Zandt repertoire was lacking. I was criticized by some people. I started to learn these things, went to a couple bluegrass festivals, and really was blown away by this parking lot scene. It was just mind-boggling. I walked in and I was just like, this is cooler than the festival. I just get to walk around and meet people and jam the whole time? No way. And yeah, that's exactly what happens. And so I wouldn't say that I was anything close to flat picking or holding my own in any of the categories of music that exist really in Kentucky. It's a bluegrass-driven state. And I still don't know that I know the first thing really about playing bluegrass or flat picking. I've been schooled in recent years by people that are old-time fiddle players, and I know we were only doing 3 chords. I couldn't keep up. I couldn't hang. Like, those dudes really lay it down. And so that was cool, though. I played for this guy named Randy for a couple years, and I pretended to play lead for him, or I did a mediocre job of playing lead for him, maybe is the better way to say it. But and that was a kind of like the kick, really. Mm-hmm. I was doing pretty well enough to get good feedback. I knew I needed to it's always a learning improvement process, but
right.
But that was also where I got introduced to Townes Van Zandt and really gained a greater appreciation for John Prine and Guy Clark and some of these other people that I'd been introduced to by my uncle. And it was that, and then moving back to St. Louis that really was a definitive point. I was involved in music. I came back to St. Louis. I started playing, started hanging out and jamming, getting into bands. And I had this country folk root thing that I didn't really know what to do with. And then, playing in St. Louis for many years in the blues scene there, which is, heavily influenced by the blues scene there, was a cool amalgam of styles. Yeah, I enjoy drawing from in what I do now, that's for sure.
I think you can hear that in your songwriting too, or if you can hear the John Prine, then you can feel the deep rootsy stuff in it.
I guess the other end of what drives me would be like if I was in the studio and there's no audience, it's harmony. It's nailing it. Mm-hmm. It's hearing it be like that vibration that you needed it to be. That whole process is really as much fun for me as performance, maybe more so, because you get to really, really perfect that. And it's cool. You don't know, no matter how much pre-production you do, exactly what this song is going to sound like until you hear it the first time, that it's mostly mixed. And you're just like, yes, still don't like that part, but the rest of it, yes. Oh, I'm going to go outside and cry a little bit. I'll be right back. Like, it's a cool experience. It's equally as powerful as when you move a room. Except it's the reverse end of it. Like this, like the song is performing for you on stage, and you're the only person in the room, or the engineer and the other people you're with, and you're all there. Like, should we applaud?
Right.
But it's really good.
We're the audience.
Do you guys think that was good? I thought that was good. Somebody told me it wasn't good. No?
Nobody?
Okay, it was good.
Okay,
That's good.
right.
Let's go with it. So yeah, it's music in general is an awesome thing. It's an awesome language to speak. I'm very grateful to have had the opportunities to learn it and develop it the ways that I have. Because it's a conversation. It's an entirely different language, just like anything else you'd learn in foreign language class of whatever.
Yep.
And like all languages, it has an amazing ability to just completely break all its rules.
Right.
And be reformed to do whatever you want to do with it. But that has to be done in context appropriately.
Right.
But you can do these things. And then it's awesome. It's a universal language, which is, I think, what makes it most unique, in that it's an immediate interaction, a conversation between the performance and the listener, or performer and the listener, and the performers on stage. There's all this simultaneous exchange going, but it doesn't matter about any boundary that you set between you and somebody else in judging them when they came in the room or when you walked in or whatever, ethnicity, class, how anything is presented is useless, because the music is going to reach far beyond language and far beyond stereotype. And you can see this happen. You don't have to speak the same language and you can play music together. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing experience to be like, I don't know, I think he wants water. Let's just jam.
Let's jam. Right.
Yeah. It's really fun because you can't communicate,
Right.
but you can.
Right.
And you can actually communicate at a very deep and meaningful level without being able to say anything past, like toddler speak to each other. And that's pretty awesome. It's a cool thing.
So you moved back to St. Louis and then Colorado after that?
Basically, yeah. I wandered around and spent time in different places, but I always kind of came back to St. Louis. And then, in 2013, I came out to Colorado, and there is a magnetism here for me, both in family roots and just in everything about the climate and the people and the vibe. Like, it really, I'd always heard that you might find this place that really is just like your spot. Mm-hmm. I don't know what city that is necessarily. I love Longmont, but really it's this area in general I have such an affinity for. It's hard to complain about 300 plus days of sun.
It's true.
I'd benefit greatly from the vitamin D.
Me too.
It makes me a happier and nicer person, but as it does for, I think, everybody else out here. But, but the high elevation desert, I really enjoy. I miss rain, but I kind of like it that way.
Yeah.
I like missing it.
So when it does come.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, that smell. I remember this. And St. Louis is a place with a lot of rain, and so that's a juxtaposition that I'm fond of. Really, I don't miss it raining that much. I enjoy missing the rain. I'm good with that.
In the song you played earlier, the drifting song, you mentioned that you were in Colorado. Was that?
See, and
How did that come?
That really didn't get written until 2013.
Okay.
There was a line in there that was different, and I'd recorded this with another band years ago, and yeah, I wanted it to keep evolving, kind of like it had. And I was sitting there, and I was just playing a whole bunch of songs one day, and I was in Colorado. I was up in like Beaver Creek area above Nederland, and it just seemed like, oh, well, that's the right amount of syllables, and it flows well and rhymes. And I guess that's the word. All right, I am in Colorado, and suddenly the song was really authentic for me. So that was a cool moment. Of pieces of that song I definitely attached to with different events in my life, but the whole song itself, I never really felt like I'd owned that. I'd never really sat on the ridge and watched the sun and played guitar until that moment when I wrote that line. So suddenly the last verse and the hooks were done.
So you've played in a couple different music scenes. What is different here than what you've seen elsewhere?
Oh man, it's hard to say exactly what it is. The community, the unity, it's not that there's a lack of competitiveness. It's that there's very healthy, sustainable competition. Mm-hmm. Everybody's interested in what everybody else is doing. They show up at each other's shows, and they like offer criticism in very constructive ways. It's not like, I want to tell you what I think about your song because I'm going to steal it, and when you see my band play, you're going to hear something that's kind of like yours. Like, there's this really a deep respect and ownership for the amazing place that this is for musical and artistic ventures. I think everybody that's out here for long enough begins to realize that, it doesn't matter so much that you live in Colorado Springs or Fort Collins or anywhere in between. Like, it's like 200 miles of amazing stuff happening all the time right here.
Right.
And Longmont is pretty dead centrally located in that. It in and of itself, though, is a community of songwriters and maybe we should qualify it as saying it like artisan artists. There are people here that are really seriously cultivating and refining their craft. Mm-hmm. And it's not to say that isn't happening elsewhere. It is. But the group that exists here and the way that they interact together is unparalleled anywhere else that I've ever been. Like,
yeah, I think everybody's honing their crafts in the spirit of honing their craft.
Yeah.
Not to get famous, not to be the best in the room, but to say, I have a message and I want to be able to promote it as my best self.
Yeah, there were, I'd say, 2 events that were definitive for me in Longmont, and that was my first Left Hand Artist Group meeting and the first time I came to Tim's Song Circle. Both happened in a pretty short amount of time between each other. But yeah, I walked into Left Hand Artist Group on my birthday a few years ago, and that was quite a birthday present. This group exists. These people are like, wow, they're excited, they're promoting, they're supporting, they're doing stuff. Like, this is amazing. And that group, and just the idea behind that type of initiative is what drives other successful groups as well to keep this sound bridge. Mm-hmm. And there are many more that really are invested in the fact that this scene is worth investing in.
Right.
And then the songwriting circle, like, I walked into a group of like 6 or 7 people that I had met maybe a couple of them before, but most of which I'd never really met or was at least not that familiar with, and was offered great advice and was able to offer advice. And it's like this comfortable conversation about editing and songwriting and what do you guys think about this? And I don't like this line and blah, blah, blah. And I walked away from that and I was like, this is magic. Like, Winfield, Kansas is the only other town I can think of. Maybe San Luis Obispo, California as well. We'll just put those 2 out there.
Yeah.
And although I didn't spend enough time in San Luis Obispo to confirm that, Winfield, I know, has something similar to what's going on here. Winfield's is built around the fact that the Walnut Valley Festival has happened there for 40 plus years, and that's like this folk mecca. It's where the flat picking and fingerstyle championships are. Mandolin, banjo, dobro, violin. If it's a folk instrument, that's the national stage. Wow. And it's an awesome place. Winfield has this like incredibly magical, poetic, mystical vibe to it as well. Kind of like Longmont. You're just like, huh.
That seems like it's
what's going on here? What are you guys doing? You guys, is something in the water? Can I have some?
And some more?
Yeah, I'd like a second dose, please.
Well, we're fortunate to have you here, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you coming in and sharing some tunes with us today. You want to share one more with us before you go?
I would love to, and we'll reference why the hammer's here, I think. So yeah, it would be impossible to talk about the music and the beginnings and endings of it and then all this process that it is without referencing Jimbo again. Yeah, I brought the hammer because I was like, yep, I've had that since I was 19. So I've had that hammer for a long time. I've been playing guitar longer than I've been doing carpentry. Not by too much, but the guitar's got a few years on the carpentry skills.
I is making a cameo appearance over here.
My wonderful, amazing pit bull, Aya, is an incredible companion, kind of like a song that just happened at the right time. And I like those stickers that you see driving around that say, "Who rescued Hugh?" Because
it's true.
It is.
It's very true.
The right animal companion can be a marvelous balance for human existence. That's for sure. I think I try to remind her to be a little more polite and patient, and she probably does the same for me. So We're both winning, ideally. But yeah, I spent a lot of time at Jimbo's house on his front porch, listening to his records, working with him, hanging out. And he's this amazing, kind of like Mad Dog, really. Jimbo doesn't necessarily play music. He would tell you can't carry a tune in a bucket, but he knows music. He's seen so much. He's got tons of photos of it. And it took me a long time to appreciate the music he was introducing me to, much like it took me some time to come to appreciate him. But the finer things in life often do take a longer time to process your real appreciation for.
It's true.
And there's a certain authenticity in the storytelling in country and Americana music that I really, really enjoy. Songwriters like Guy Clark, we can start with him, who has this ability to say the most simple, easy things that would just be part of a normal conversation, but put them in this framework of lyricism that makes them profound moments of truth for you in a way that you can't help but attach to. And those are awesome songs. It doesn't matter if you like the production or the instrumentation or there's too much twang or any of that stuff. Like, if you really just break this down and look at it, this is brilliant. John Prine, Townes Van Zandt, we can just keep saying those three names over. Those are big pinnacle formative names for me. But there's a lot on this list. David Brombeck, like incredible performers and songwriters that I wouldn't have been introduced to had it not been for his influence. And so last year at Trish and Wes's house with Soundbridge, I got to see Butch Hancock play a intimate house concert. And he is a Texas songwriter who is associated with some of these other incredible Texas songwriters that I seem to have a thing for Texas songwriters. Like, I like what they do. Especially Townes, who is like a Texas Colorado songwriter. He had this hybrid life. So that means I guess I need to set up some kind of base in Texas and then try and live the Townes life minus the alcohol. And maybe I'll live a little longer. It seems like a right choice, but maybe not quite.
I don't know if you get one without the other.
I don't want to write all those sad songs either, though. Like I write something a little bit happier, but I don't seem to write the happiest songs, just for the record. So that's okay. So yeah, this is one of those that I went and saw this amazing show. I was moved by his incredible lyricism and delivery. It's just like simple, humble truth resonating from this man. And I woke up the next morning and I had a different song kind of in my head, but this is the one that happened. This one's called Hither and Yon. Broken-hearted, and I'm down in the dirt, but I kinda like it here. It shows you what you're worth when all of your pride, like dust from your brim, well, it may sting your eyes. It moves on with the wind. So who's to blame if we're not where we wanted to be? And it's all the same. You're you, he's him and I'm me. And I'm just a train, a whistling troubadour song. Forever thereafter, hither and yon. Now I've taken off, and I've crashed and I've burned, and I held on but was thrown when too quickly I tried to turn. With one foot in the stirrup and my back on the ground, you ran for the water and there's none to be found. And so who's to blame if we're not where we wanted to be? And it's all the same, you're you, he's him, and I'm me. And I'm just a train, a whistling troubadour song. Forever thereafter, hither and yon. In August, it cools the front range. The night's a bit longer now as autumn gets framed. A fallen old pole barn on my kitchen wall. Well, my beautiful darling, you answered the call. So who's to blame if we're not where we wanted to be? And it's all the same, you're you, he's him, and I'm me. And I'm just a train, a whistling troubadour song. Forever thereafter, hither and yon. Forever thereafter, hither and yon.
Mr. Sean Bennight. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
April 10th at Vision Quest Brewery in Boulder with Mad Dog Blues. April 12th, the Little Bear in Evergreen, Mad Dog Blues at 5 p.m. April 19th at the Broken Plow in Greeley with Mad Dog Blues. April 26th, Georgia Boys in Longmont, solo at 7 p.m. The Astral Project with Mad Dog is playing Sonic Bloom on the Starwater stage, which is June 20th through the 23rd.
Woo.
And upcoming shows with Riley Ann to look for starting mid-May.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes.
You got some work.
Yeah, man, things are popping. Mad Dog is a great band leader and keeps us busy. And those are all really fun shows. Georgia Boys is super cool. I like that small, intimate room there. Solo shows are a blast. And then, yeah, the Astral Project is cool. It's Alex Bernat on Celtic harp. Mad Dog plays mostly native flute and some harmonica. I'm playing electric, making weird noises. And we've got vocalists joining us as well on that. And that's just really, really awesome, kind of in the moment healing music is the intention there. So yeah, we ended up being offered a chance to play on the Starwater stage at Sonic Bloom.
Awesome.
Very cool. Gonna be hanging out at the festival. Gonna be a good time.
Don't forget us.
I got you all VIP passes already. Don't worry. I rented us a limo and a helicopter and a jetpack. We all got jetpacks, individual jetpacks. We're going to fly around and watch those shows from the best seats in the house.
Well, we kept it on the rails for an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's very impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive for
Cool.
us.
I think it's great. I only offered one ridiculous thing. We were very at the very end. So
All
good.
right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for
you,
being an
Sean.
awesome part of the team here as well.
It is a thrill.